Welcome to the Macdownunder Podcast for all Australian Apple computer enthusiasts and collectors.
Well, welcome to episode 10 of the Macdownunder Podcast. Double digits, finally! I'm Justin, and thanks to everyone that's been tuning in and leaving comments over the first 9 episodes. And special thanks to my co-host Matthew, who's agreed to be involved from the very beginning when we were sort of spitballing what this might look like. So, 10 episodes, the time's really flown. Please keep commenting below to help us improve for the next 10 episodes and beyond. And we've received some great feedback for future ideas for the show that are on our list to incorporate. But please keep the ideas coming for future episodes. So now to formally introduce my co-host Matthew. Welcome. 10 episodes. Can you believe it? I'm just lighting my candles for the cupcake. I've got my party hat. In, of course,
Hey.
the white with the Apple colours, and I got my kazoo. And as I mentioned, I do have a cupcake, and I'll try not to burn down my microphone. There we go. Happy 10th.
Yay!
So well
very
done, and
good.
thank you so much for all your assistance and input, and obviously all your co-host duties, Matt. You've done a great job.
Thanks, JD. It's great to be here. I'm just the guy that rocks up and talks to the camera. So thank you for your editing and scripting and preparation beforehand as well. So it's been good. I'm excited that we've made 10 episodes, and it's been great to have all your viewers along for the journey so far, and look forward to the next 110. So we'll see how far we can go, JD. I brought a couple of little 10-year items, just to 10-year, number 10 items. And the first was this. This one of my. I'm actually really chuffed to have this at the museum. It's the first 10 years of Apple. So Apple's
Wow.
first decade, which talks to a history of the future. And if I just bring that in, if
Some
I get my
iconic
orientation
photos.
right.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, there's a mouse.
So
We're going to talk about them later.
there's a mouse, but as you can see, 77 to 87, Apple's first decade. Interestingly, when I was looking at that, I thought 77, not 76. So
Yeah.
I'm not too sure why they decided to call that the first the first decade. Just a little number 10 item, and the other was this more local.
Sorry,
Something I
we'll go back
received
to-
this week, which was the volume 10 of Awesome News, which was the Apple is the Apple User Society of Melbourne from 1989. So I was very generously donated a large collection of awesome newsletters, and that was their volume 10. So to celebrate our 10, I thought I'd share a couple of other 10s.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And what else have you been up to in the past week?
Well, for me, JD, the last week, just I suppose going back to that note I made about the donation, I received some monitors and a stack of magazines this week, which I was very, very grateful to have come through. So a chap named Daryl who dropped them off, and I know Danny, he was involved in that connection as well, but. Some monitors which were new to me here in the museum, which is great, including a multiple scan 17 from 1994. So I'd been looking for one of those for a little while, and I've now got two of them, which is great. So I haven't tested them yet, but receiving those, I was again very grateful to have those come through, and this stack of awesome newsletters as well, which, excuse the pun, is awesome to have in the
It's
collection.
awesome.
So I'll, so particularly being sort of local, Melbourne-based stuff. So looking forward to going through that in the next week ahead as well. So that's been me, JD. So what about for you? What's news?
Fantastic. Oh, it's been a relatively quiet week for me. So I've been updating the Macdownunder website with photos of the Apple IICs and some more mice pictures and other bits and pieces. And on this same channel, in fact, there are other videos that I made some time ago about my Apple HomeKit home automation stuff. And my robot lawnmower has got a homegrown automation within Apple HomeKit, and he's been playing up. Roger's very naughty, my lawnmower, so I got him to work so that he's actually out mowing the grass, and the front lawn's now looking tidy for a change. So a bit of domestic work, but still an Apple link, perhaps a bit too contemporary for this show. But if people are interested, there's plenty of other videos about the my Apple HomeKit exploits on the channel.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
So, to this episode, we probably need to talk about something significant. So, since the launch of the Apple Lisa in 1982, the Apple mouse and other pointing devices have become synonymous with Apple computers. And from there, obviously, the Macintosh was always going to have a mouse, and then Apple developed an interface and software for the Apple II to use a mouse, or at least that's what it appears. In fact, in doing some research for this show, it turns out that the Mac team did a side home project to make an Apple III compatible mouse card. And when Steve Jobs was presented with the idea, he promptly said, "Well, that belongs to me," and so turned it into the Apple II interface card that we know about now. So while Douglas Engelbart is certainly attributed as the inventor of the mouse in the 60s, and Xerox PARC, we know, put it to great use in their Alto and Star systems. It was actually Apple that spent a fair bit of time engineering something for the mass market, and marketed the mouse to the millions, and that's how we know them. So for everyone that's watching, in case you haven't guessed, this episode is the Apple Mouse episode that we've been talking about for quite a while. And so today we'll take a deeper dive into everything Apple Retro Mouse. We'll also cover some recent for sale ads and coming events, and some of those will be very mouse related as well. So Matt, do you have much interest in Apple mice down at the museum?
Absolutely, yes. And I'd have to say, JD, since we've been chatting over the last 8-9 months, it's my interest has grown as we've sort of talked together about the different varieties and the different variations. There's been some new ones which have become known to me, and I think in reverse, I've made some known to you as well. So absolutely, I think it's, like you mentioned, such an important part of Apple's history, the pointing device. And just to, going further than just knowing there's the serial ones, the ADB ones, the USB ones, the wireless ones. It's then looking at the finer detail for each of those interfaces, and then the different models that were out there too. So yeah, it's as you know, I like to put the period correct stuff alongside the machines down here, the museum exhibits. So yeah, I find it very fascinating to learn these little tidbits as we've gone along.
Well, and that'll be no mean feat to actually match up the right mouse and the right keyboard and the right other peripherals for some of these, because there are so many, as we've discovered. And I don't know that it's all that clear when each of them was actually introduced and used, because it isn't well documented from what I can find so far.
No, that's it. So that's me, JD. But obviously we've talked. I know you've got an interest. How did you sort of get started in your mouse adventures?
Yeah, well, like most people, I was aware that the Mac came with a mouse, and I got to use one in my science days in the research labs. And it wasn't really until I bought an Apple II GS that I actually had a mouse of my own, so to speak, with the Apple II GS, which introduced ADB. And it wasn't until the 1990s when I got my first Lisa, and it was like, this is a weird looking mouse. We'll talk about it more in detail in a moment. And it became obvious that there were lots of other variations. And then I got an Apple IIc mouse. It's different again. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's color variations. And so really got carried away. And as you know, I was reboxing some stuff that I've got in my collection, and one of the boxes spilled open, and called it the waterfall of ADB mice because they were spilling out. And because of some of the research I'd been doing on mice, I thought, I wonder how many of these variations I've got. And it turned out in the ADB ones, I had an example of all of them. So that really kicked off my, the start of my Apple mice obsession. I've tried to get an example of every model since.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So I'd be interested to know, JD, when you've started to look up these variations, what resources have you used to try to discover more and learn more about them?
Yeah, there are some fantastic websites that I'll link down in the comments, in the description. The first one is this Wikipedia page on Apple pointing devices, and it gives a great history of particularly early mice, the Lisa mouse and the serial mice. I noticed it hasn't got quite as much detail as some others do as you move forward in years, but it's got a fantastic bibliography at the end, and I got a couple of great stories. In fact, that one about how the Apple II mouse card was developed is one of those links. So fantastic reference. But I've also found through other websites and so forth, the Apple Rescue of Denver Mac Repair Company, I think, have some great resources about ADB mice. And so not only do they have the description, but you probably can't read it there. I'll put the link down in the description for the video. But it goes through each of the manufacturers and how each of the mice in the ADB I series were put together and what's different about them. And they've done the same for the ADB II mice. In that there's multiple versions of those, and as the original site said, the Wikipedia page, there's multiple colours of ADB mice that were released, and some extremely rare colours for those.
Yep, yeah, fascinating. It's there's once you start scratching the surface, you realise there's quite a bit to discover. I've found that Apple Rescue of Denver page or site is very, very good for some of the things they document, and some containing examples of images as well for quite a few things.
Yeah, and the wiki page is a good link to bring that all together. But in fact, when it came to the USB mice, there was a few other areas. So Matt, in fact, you told me of some variations that you'd found that I haven't seen documented anywhere around some of the Pro mice. And I found a reference, I can't recall where, in fact I know it's in the Wikipedia page, but I saw it elsewhere in one of the forums, either Tinker Different or the 68K Mac Liberation Army forum, about the original Puck mice, and there's some differences in those that we'll talk to in a moment as well. So there's plenty of information out there. Sadly, it's not all in one place, so hopefully we might be able to do that through the Mac Museum and maybe even this channel as well.
Yeah, no, very good. Well, so many different variations. Talk us through the serial mice, JD. I know I have learned a lot from you. So on this topic, I don't have a lot of experience with the serial based mice. So tell us a little bit about what you've found out.
Well, there's quite a few, and so I'll just show off a couple. So there's the Lisa mouse that I think some people, particularly serious collectors, will know about. But most people are aware of is the Mac mouse. Now, it wasn't until the 90s when I got my first Lisa that I realised the two of them are really quite different in their design, the size of the button, and actually the connector as well. So the Lisa connector is a clip-on, which is unique to the Lisa, whereas the Mac mice, of course, are a screw-in DB9. And in fact, there's multiple versions of the connectors as well. So that's just the difference between the Lisa and the Mac. And then if we have a look at some photos that I've taken of my collection, which are actually on the Macdownunder website, there's a plethora of serial mice, and we can run through them really quickly. So the Lisa mouse is on the left. The Mac mouse we've just showed is the second. The third there is actually the Apple II mouse, and you can see there's a difference in the colour. The next one along is the Apple IIc mouse. Now you might be able to tell there that the Apple IIc mice, the fourth and fifth in that photo, have a completely different shape, and in fact are a different colour. Now that they're both just a little bit yellowed, but they're an almond colour rather than the beige colour of the Macs. And then of course the sixth and seventh are where the Apple changed the connector to the rounded connector, and then the last three, of course, are the platinum style mice. And again, the difference there being that one's the Mac mouse, one's an Apple IIe mouse, and one's an Apple IIc mouse. So just an amazing variety. No real difference in operation other than the Apple IIc mice are also wired to work from a joyport connector. And I thought, and I mentioned this last episode, I thought if you plug them into the wrong hole, bad things happen. They don't. It just, if you use a non-Apple IIc mouse in an Apple IIc, you don't get the X parameter. So in terms of XY, one direction doesn't work for the Apple IIc.
Right.
So you need a 2C mouse in an Apple IIc. And reading through the history, how that played out is Apple had to include Apple IIc mice wiring in all the Apple II packaging. Otherwise, people complained when they bought an Apple II mouse, but it didn't work on their IIc, as it turns out. So there are a plethora of Apple serial mice. Do any of those interest you, Matt?
Absolutely, because I can remember looking at the bottom of a couple of the later serial mice and saying, "I'm like, oh, this one's labeled 2E, but this one's labeled 2C. So what are the actual differences?" So it's fascinating to hear about the different configuration there, particularly with the 2C. My impression has been that the sort of the feel of the later the Macintosh style serial mouse, if we sort of differentiate from the Lisa or the 2C specific ones, they're all very much the same. They've all got a very, very similar feel, has been my experience. Would you agree with that, JD? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. And if people want a little bit more detail, I've got the various model numbers. I haven't even gone through those because they're all slightly different. But that's on the Macdownunder website if people are interested, alongside these photos.
Great photo as well, JD. That's really cool.
Righto. So if we want to move on, we can move on to the ADB mice. So there's my family photo. Again, this is from the my website, and I'm not going to go through all the model numbers and variations, but it's about the site of manufacture, and they did use different model numbers between the Apple II series and the Mac series. And you'll notice the mouse on the bottom right has got a black mouse retainer, which looks suspiciously like the serial ones, except it's got the Teflon surface, so it is actually an ADB mouse. But the one I thought I would actually show up close and personal is the one from the middle, which is this one that was made by Alps. It's the only Mac mouse that was made by the Alps company. And the difference is you might be able to see that it's got this arrow at the bottom because it doesn't rotate to open. It actually clips open, and then you pull the mouse retainer off and then slide it back in to retain it. A bit more like the PC mice that a lot of people are used to, but quite unusual for the Apple community. Now, I thought I only had one because I remember getting it specifically for that feature. Turns out I had 5 when I went through my waterfall box, so lucky me. But they are rarer for sure.
Yes. Well, I imagine now, JD, you've only got 4 because you very generously passed one on to me as a gift. So thank you, because that one was not one that I had. I've got a box of ADB mice. Not one of them was one of those. So I would probably say it is a harder to get one. And I was very fascinated when you showed it to me. So thank you for the gift again. And great to be able to complete my collection with those. I always just knew them as light ball and heavy ball. That was growing up, you pick up a mouse and that's how it would be. So interesting to see the different variations there too.
Yeah, you might have to thank me later because I've also read that Alps mouse is probably the least reliable. So if it actually does work, we might both be very lucky. Okay, so that one's out the ADB I mice. Then we move into the ADB II mice. And in fact, I think we're all sort of used to the platinum color because most of them came out that way. And a few people are aware of the black version because it came with the Mac TV, probably made it most popular, as you know, because you've got one in the museum, and also with the Performer Director series that was released in Australia. So we're lucky. We have lots of black mice in Australia, I think, as a result of that. But there is a third one that I wasn't aware of until really recently, which is this slate grey PowerBook grey. In fact, that's what it was made for the PowerBooks. Now, they're pretty rare, so I'm told, and I found this one in Germany online and had to import it. and I've never seen another one for auction. So there's those ADB mice. But in fact, Matt, you told me about these other variations that I was completely unaware of. And again, the Denver site has a listing of each of these. But particularly the second one in, where the details of the mouse are actually embossed in the plastic, which is the Chinese variation. And you start to get into this weird space where when you take the mouse cover off, the mouse ball retainer off, there's a variation of whether the ball mechanism that has the rotors to work out X and Y, whether they're actually embedded in the body of the plastic or whether they're an attached part. And the Chinese version, if you've got one of those, is an example where all of the parts are in one piece of plastic. And there's no separate replacement part. I guess it makes it cheaper. Again, if you're going down the I'll mix my metaphors, the rabbit hole with your mice, there are heaps of variations, and even in the ADB II mice, there's plenty to talk about there.
Yeah, very cool. I think one thing while we're talking about this, I have to say, those ones that have the labels on the bottom, it upsets me when I see someone's just jammed a screwdriver straight through the little label there to open them up. The screw to open them is under the label, but just a little bit of heat, or if you can get a little edge under there and put some isopropyl to loosen off the adhesive, you can remove that label intact reasonably easy. So please don't upset me and just drive your screwdriver straight through to get to the screw, because it can be prevented damaging that little label on there. So, but yes, as you said, JD, once you pop them open, you find there's a couple of variations of what's inside as well.
Yeah, and again, those Denver websites are really good because they show photographs of the internals and the variations. So if you want to go down that far in the detail, you can. But as you say, having the labels intact makes all the difference in identifying where they were manufactured and the period and the model number. Again, I've got all of those details on accompanying this photo on the Macdownunder website if people are interested to go further. All right, next up, we're getting into the more modern era with our USB mice, which, again, Matt, you filled me in a lot about the differences between some of these Pro mice. And one thing I wasn't aware of was with these puck mice on the left, there is a subtle difference between the original 5 flavours and the slot load 5 flavours. So the original Bondi Blue mouse, the puck mouse on the left, in fact that is a Bondi Blue one, there's no rib on the mouse button. And as people know, these are much maligned mice. People claim they got RSI from using them. The variation I'm about to talk about was because they are so uniform that people couldn't work out which way around they were, apparently. I would have thought the mouse cord would give that away, but apparently not. So the second version, and you can't see it in the photo, sadly, all that easily, but there is an indentation on the mouse button so that you can tell that that's where the mouse button is and that's the top of the mouse. So that's the variation between Series 1 and Series 2, as far as I'm aware, in terms of the puck mice. And so there's 6 versions of each. So there's Bondi Blue and then the 5 flavours of the first version. And then with the slot load G3 IMAX, there's the 5 flavours plus the graphite one that was used for the desktop towers. So there's 6 of each, but not the same 6. So there you go. Turns out I now have all of them. I was missing the Series 1 grape, but I managed to find one in the US, and it's winging its way to me right now. So I've filled out that little bit of my collection. So the next one that's along, Matt, you probably know better than I do. So the Pro mice, there's the 2 black Pro mice. Now, what I wasn't aware of is the difference in manufacturing. So the one on the left there's got a translucent cable, bit hard to see in the photo, and the one on the right has well, we call it a white cable. Mine's probably more grey than it is white, but it's just dirty. So there was a difference between these two. I'm not sure if there were any other differences. I haven't determined any.
I don't think there was, and from my recollection, because it was a change that occurred once the white Pro Mouse had come out, it was that the first iteration of the Pro Mouse all had the clear. It wasn't that the white and clear was simultaneous. It was later on when they dropped the clear cable and then adopted the white cable along with the white Pro Mouse, which came out as well. So
Okay, so that's you're talking to the next two along, which are the clear shell white Pro. Well, the first one's a Pro Mouse. In fact, the second one's called Mouse.
mouse.
So it took us a while, but they got to Mouse, and you can see that the undersides. There is some difference in the mechanical setup of those two. And then the one on the right is the Mighty Mouse, which is a bit of a departure. So we've gone back to a solid shape rather than like that clear suspended look that came with the Pro Mice. And they've introduced the other item. Now, I think the non-PC version is nipple. That's what it was called back in the day. But in fact, I connected mine up the other day, and because I hadn't used it for quite a while, and as we were talking off camera, it's the first time Apple moved away from just an XY position and click, so position and click one button, to what I think is 7 functions. So I set this one up. This is a screenshot of the one I played with the other day. So the Mighty Mouse, for those that weren't aware or haven't got one, did your normal mouse XY, so pointing on a screen. And it introduced left and right mouse clicks. Now, interestingly, the secondary button is programmed to be the left mouse click by default. So when you get it out of the box and plug it in, if you haven't configured it, everything's one click, which I guess is true to Apple's form. So you've actually got to go into the settings to reassign the right mouse click to something different. And in fact, all the clicks are. So the nipple at the top, as people may well know, is like a scroll wheel in modern mice. So it allows you to scroll left, right, and front and back, or up and down. The secondary scroll in your windows, but the nipple itself is a button. And so if you click the nipple section as opposed to the mouse section left and right, you can assign that to another function. In this case, Spotlight comes open when I do that on my Magic Mouse if I reconnect it. And the other issue the other function with the Mighty Mouse is the 2 buttons on the side have been enabled. So in the other Pro Mice, there are 2 buttons, but they don't do anything. They're just helpful to squeeze, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. But in the Mighty Mouse, if you squeeze them together, firstly, the mouse makes a click noise, which I'm told is an electronic click. Doesn't work when you disconnect the mouse. And you can program it to be another function. And in this case, what it does for me is shows the desktop. So it clears all the other screens off the desktop and gives you a blank desktop, just as an example. So from my counting, that's 7 functions in the Mighty Mouse when it came out. So a huge departure from the original pointing and clicking idea.
Crazy. They really said, you tell us you want buttons. All right, here you go. Here's, we'll show you. So
certainly went overboard, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, so this screenshot came from my Mac Mini that I'm recording on at the moment, which is running Ventura 13.7.7. So the software is still enabled in the contemporary OS X to run this mouse, even though it's actually a pre-Intel mouse. So it's over 20 years old.
I love the continued support. We'll get upset one day when they drop it, like they have done for things in the past, which we don't need to mention here. But yes, it's good while it lasts.
So what are your favourite USB mice, Matt?
I really like the Pro Mouse. The original clear cable Pro Mouse is one of my faves. So I can add in here as well, on the Pro Mouse. I will admit we had a sacrificial mouse here that at the museum, which I tried to see if I could crack it open to do some repair work, and it's near impossible to put back together properly with the retaining the white ring, sort of holding it together in some form, but you won't get it back together properly. I also made an attempt to turn one which was very scratched into practice some plastic polishing skills on it, and I've still got a ways to go. So I feel like that might have been a one-way journey. So yeah, the Pro Mouse I think is really cool. I think because it took us away from the puck, which I don't have too much of a problem with, to be honest. But I'll admit I didn't use it day to day. But it was, it just was a really cool looking device when it came out with its red glow. So that's my fave there, JD.
Yeah, I've got to say that the Mighty Mouse was probably mine out of this because of the extra functions. I use a trackpad now, so that's probably no great surprise because I love the multi-finger gestures and whatever else. I love those features. But of course, one of the downsides with the Mighty Mouse was that nipple ball actually got clogged a lot. So you have to clean your mice balls anyway in the old mice. And unless you've got a different trick, the one that I'd always seen was to actually get a strip of paper and feed it in underneath that little ball, and then run it backwards and forwards to clean the sensors. And it certainly worked for me, but I found as my Mighty Mouse got older and older, I had to do it more and more often. So a bit of a downside with all that wonderful technology.
It is. That's that's a good trick, JD. I hadn't found a go-to solution other than some isopropyl and upside down on a cloth to give it a good run. So that must mean we've got the wireless mice to finish us off.
We are up to wireless mice. So now you can ignore some of these because they're Intel era. All of those that have got metal on them, in fact, but they're there because they're in my photos. So Apple did move to the Bluetooth mouse, which is the wireless mouse on the left. Not that common. So there are a couple I've seen around in Australia. I actually imported mine in the end to get a nice clean and boxed edition. And then of course there's the wireless Mighty Mouse, which does all the same 7 functions of the wired one. It has the same nipple problem in that you have to clean it regularly again, but you've got the added bonus of it being wireless. And then, of course, there's all the Magic Mice, which I just love. And we get back into the iMac problem of multiple colours of mice. And at the moment, they're new, so they're expensive and definitely not something I'm collecting beyond an example of each at the moment. But anyway, that's a conversation for 20 years' time when they're collectible.
I think one thing that's interesting here, JD, is that when we were looking at the previous ones, the Serial and the ADB ones, aside from maybe some unique kind of connection to a particular model, like the 2C mouse, for example, I think we sort of had things were done chronologically there. So aside from the variations, whereas with this, we've seen this wireless one on the very left, if I recall correctly, someone can correct me in the comments, or JD, you can, came out when we had just the plain Apple mouse before the Mighty Mouse, the wired Mighty Mouse, and then we saw the wired Mighty Mouse come out. But I think there was a period where we didn't have the wireless Mighty Mouse simultaneous. I might be wrong there, but there's something quirky that just sits in my memory bank about how that sort of came about.
Yeah, I think you're right, because in this case, having a wireless mouse was a special feature. It wasn't just a given as it is today. There was a gap between the Apple mouse coming out and then a Bluetooth mouse coming out, which is really what people called it at the time. And then the corded Mighty Mouse came out, and I think you're right, there was a delay. I'm not entirely sure of the whether it's months or years. I suspect it's not years. But it was definitely a special feature to get a wireless mouse back then. Whereas now they're delivered with the machines as standard. But back then they were a special, very expensive optional extra.
A premium. That's it. Yes. Very cool. That is a great collection of mice, JD, and I think your photography there to show them all off, top and bottom, is superb. So
there is a couple more coming.
That.
Yeah. Yep. So it is currently all on the Macdownunder website, which is linked to the channel. So go and have a look there. There are still, as I mentioned, there's a USB puck mouse still coming. So I haven't taken the photos of the colours yet, but I will. I wasn't intending to, but I suspect to be complete, I'll probably do that. And there is one 2C mouse that I wasn't sure existed, but it turns out it does. And I was lucky enough that Danny, friend of the channel and friend of the museum, has got a couple of examples, so he's happy to pass one on, which is great. It wonderful. Will come, and I will have all the serial mice that I'm aware of until something pops up that I don't know about. So I hope everyone enjoyed the walk through Apple mice with us today. We can certainly do a deeper dive into each of them and their features in a future episode. So again, let us know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. I think we're happy to do it, but we wanted to cover off something special today for the 10th episode. So, and I've mentioned things like having mice collections on show and so forth in previous episodes, and suggested that people may not be interested. So we'll find out from today. Yes. We know at least there's one viewer that does like the variations. And in fact, Matt, we'll talk about it, but I might even bring this collection down to the next museum opening, just if people are interested.
Very good.
Might be something to do.
Great.
So if you're watching online, do you collect Apple mice or input devices of some description? Keyboards, trackpads, graphics tablets. There's all sorts of variations that Apple have had along the way. Let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, and possibly even have a conversation about some of the more obscure input devices in future episodes. And again, if you've got any other suggestions for future episodes or for how we can improve the show, please let us know. All right, so time to move on to recent news. And the biggest piece of recent news is about Matt. So you were the co-host on the US-based Retro Maccast recently. In fact, this week.
This week, yes. I did mention it when we were talking about what I've been up to this week, knowing that you were going to pop a screenshot up here. And thanks for getting a flattering one there, JD. So that was a bit of fun. Catch up with James from Retro Maccast. Second time I've been on the show. I was standing in for John, who's the regular co-host there with James usually. But that was great. Checking out James unboxing a Mac Pico Nano, I think it was called, just a real miniature Mac based off a Pico. Check out the episode; it's up there to watch. But that was a bit of fun. So I was very chuffed for them to ask me to stand in. It was good fun.
It was a great episode. I was watching. Okay, the other piece of recent news in at least Australian Apple collecting, I thought this was worth mentioning. In the Vintage Apple and Macintosh Enthusiasts of Australia Facebook forum, there was a post made by Chris, who's a local, about some local products he's been testing in place of retro brighting, or as part of the retro brighting procedure. And he's got an example there of an ADB I mouse, so sort of fitting for today's episode, where he's used a very cheap, readily available product, plus some UV light for, I think, 10 hours, he says in the post, to improve it. So he's got the before and after photos there that you can see. So I just thought that was worth checking in on. I know we've put in our list of things to talk about in the future is how we clean our various devices, and I think there's probably an avenue there to talk about retro brighting. It's not for everybody, and there's a couple of different methods. So this is one that's been posted. So have a look as an example. But at this stage, I'm not really that familiar with retro brighting, so that's why I'm interested in this and paying attention to how other people are finding the various products. Matt, any thoughts about this particular one?
I think great outcome with the photos there that Chris has achieved, which is cool and nice for him to share his process, because that's one thing I found when I was starting out on my retro writing journey is that just um, there's a lot of words thrown around in terms of how to do it or products, but just good walkthrough of how to do it, and here's what you need, and here's what you're looking for, and be aware of this. Um, there's a lot of resource out there, but I just, when I was doing it a few years ago, I struggled to find something solid. So there might be, I'd say it's probably improved here, but it was great. I think it's just great to have people share their experiences, because it gives the opportunity for people to ask questions as well, which was good.
Okay, so on to coming events. Now, this is probably very similar to last week's selection, but the Adelaide Retro Computing Group has got their regular event coming up on Friday, the 12th of September in Unley. The Bendigo Retro Gaming Group, this is a new one, has a meeting on Saturday the 6th of September. Now, that's an interesting date, as we'll see in a moment, for those of us here. But it's in Bendigo, so if you can't travel to Mac Museum, you can go to Bendigo. They've got it from 12:30pm till late, probably. Now, I've looked into this before, and I haven't seen many photos of Apple or Apple consoles at this particular event. However, it does say in this ad, bring along a console, handheld computer, or a collection to discuss. So here's the challenge. I probably won't be able to do this particular one because I've got other commitments on the 6th. But if you're out there and you're in Bendigo, maybe come along to the Retro Gaming Bendigo meeting with your Apple product and demonstrate some Apple games to those that are there, and maybe that'll become a regular feature. Who knows?
Very cool. Take a Pippin if you've got one, and yeah.
Well, yes, I may well do that in the August, September, October one. I've got to work out what month I can get there. So the 6th of September, the Mac Museum's got their opening, so that's where I will probably be on the 6th of September, I'm thinking, possibly with a collection of mice. We'll have to see. Matt, any other details about the 6th?
At this stage, JD, I'm actually trying to arrange for some live repair work to take place during the day. So, yeah, more details to come closer to, but that's the plan at this stage.
Fantastic. Well, that'd be really exciting to see. I'm guessing who's likely to be involved. But it'll be fascinating to be involved, and well, I might bring down a machine to try to repair myself. Who knows? We'll see.
Yes.
And in fact, tomorrow is the Beaker Street Festival in Hobart, and alongside a whole lot of other things is the Arcade Time Machine, a playable trail, and it's running from 5:30pm to 9:30pm. No cost, no need for bookings, but we'll put a link to the booking page in the description for the video here so that you can find the details. Now, I've had a bit more of a read, and I understand why it's a trail. It's a bit like a progressive dinner. You go from place to place to play different video games. So I should have read a bit more for last week. So that sounds really exciting. So if you're in Hobart or want to fly to Hobart for tomorrow, 5:30pm, sounds like a great event, and hopefully we can hear from somebody who's attended after the event. That'd be great.
Very cool.
Okay, so we're up to that time of the episode to go through the for sale items. Now, this week I did another sweep for retro Apple stuff, so all pre-Intel, although again, there's a lot of Intel stuff out there that's pretty cheap. And I've specified for less than $100, and as I was saying to Matt before we started the recording, one of the sellers actually increased their price, and so I had to take it off the list. I've never seen that happen before, but anyway, obviously it can. Anyway, nevertheless, we've got some great stuff for you. Hopefully some of this might interest you, and as you will see, there is a bit of a mouse theme along the way as well. So first up, in Victoria, we have this G3 iMac it's been dropped to $100 just in the last couple of days. Not known if it's working, but it looks in pretty good shape. So definitely worth making contact if you're after a G3 iMac. I'm certainly in the market for a G3 iMac at the moment, not this one. And they are getting...
Load.
It is. That's what I'm after. So if you've got one of those, let me know. But they're certainly more expensive than this when I'm looking around the traps at the moment in all the platforms. So this is a good deal. Worth reaching out and finding out if you've got an opportunity to test and so forth. So to the mouse theme, also in Victoria, in fact in Melbourne, is this keyboard and a USB keyboard and mouse for $80. So not bad for a combo. So it is the Pro keyboard. And in honor of this episode, I took a deep look into the mouse, and it's the original Pro mouse, not the latter mouse, if that makes sense. And the only real way that I could find to see the difference is if you zoom in on the mouse itself and have a look at the side buttons. On this case, they're clear, which makes it the Pro mouse, not white, which is the mouse. So hopefully people have followed along. But for $80 for the combo, if you need it, particularly if you need it for the iMac G3 you've just bought from the previous ad, then seems like a pretty good deal. Next up, off Gumtree, we've got a serial mouse. In fact, there's not many serial mice come up, so it was advantageous that it was just listed recently. So this is the Platinum mouse by the looks of it. The colour of the retaining ring and the cable sort of give it away. Otherwise, they can look similar when they're yellowed. But I'm pretty sure this is a Platinum one for $75. Now, it sounds expensive for a mouse, but in fact, for this era, they are starting to get expensive. Yes. Here's a serial mouse if you're interested. The same seller's got a few other things for sale that you might be interested in, but I just picked out the mouse because it met my criteria of being a mouse, and under $100 this week. So that's there for you. If you wanted to match it, there's also an early version extended keyboard. So this would have been, and again, it looks platinum, so this would have been for a Mac Plus, I'm thinking, given it's platinum. So this one's $90, and it's coming from New South Wales. So again, you might choose to partner these two ads together, and you've got a combo for a early compact Mac. Next up, another combo, again off eBay. This one's from South Australia, and for $99, you can get a compact keyboard too, and an ADB II mouse. Now, my only observation, and maybe this is a variation on keyboards, but I thought the keyboards came with a coloured logo on that top section. But maybe this is a variation. I'm not 100% sure. That's the only thing that I noticed about it.
To be covered in our upcoming keyboard episode down the track. So yes, you're right, JD. There are a variation on these. Some have coloured logos, some just have it embossed.
Okay, there you go. I didn't know that, so I've learned that this episode, and I'll have to go and check my collection now. But nevertheless, for the ad itself, $99 for the combo is not unreasonable, and again, good to get them in one package from South Australia. Again, keeping with the mice, this is a wireless Mighty Mouse. And $25. Again, this one's in Melbourne. A lot of these ads today are from Melbourne as it happens. Says it works well, so that's great to know. Not a bad thing to get with its 7 functions.
Yeah, pretty good.
And if you didn't have that much money, for $10, you can get a wired Mighty Mouse. Also from Melbourne, as it turns out, and looks in good shape. So yeah, love my Mighty Mouse. Now, in keeping with the last couple of episodes, we've had a couple of listings for iSight cameras, and this one's looking a bit rough, but for $5, that's not a bad deal. The cheapest we've had so far, I think, has been $20 if you split 2 for $40, I think, a few episodes ago. So for $5, you do need to have a FireWire capable computer, because that's the special cable he's talking about there, or the socket he's talking about in the ad. But from Sydney, $5 for an iSight camera. You don't get any photos, I don't think, of the lens, or not. Oh, there you go. So it's pretty clean. Aperture's closed. And it only comes with the one adapter, which would go on top of your cinema display or your laptop, or maybe a very thin iMac. But the key here is the white adapter that actually plugs onto the camera and holds the FireWire cable. Without that, you actually can't anchor this anywhere. So that's important. It comes with the cable, which is important, and it does have one adapter. So for $5, I think this is a pretty good deal.
Right.
And just to round out today's for sale section, just another little gimmick I thought that was worth bringing to people's attention. It is under $100, although it is reasonably expensive at $79.95, is a vintage Apple computer promotional leather leads notepad holder and pen. So the special thing about this is the embossing you can see in that picture, the Apple logo on the front leather cover. The notepad is a plain white notepad, and the pen is a plain pen. There's no Apple logo on the pen that I'm aware of, and it's certainly not mentioned in the listing. So what you're paying for is the embossed leather cover. But nevertheless, if you're into Apple stuff, here's another thing to add to your Apple collection. Matt, is this something you'd add to yours?
I'd love to. Probably not at that price, but I think it looks really cool. It looks very clean too, so almost, probably brand new if it's not mentioned specifically. But yeah, it looks cool. I like the stationery.
Yeah, so if you want to add one of these to your collection, there you go. $79.95 from New South Wales. Well, that's our 10th episode. Thanks everyone for joining us so far along our journey to 10 episodes. And also our much anticipated, much telegraphed mouse episode as well. So a couple of milestones in the one go. We appreciate all the comments to help us improve down under the video. Please let us know if there's any future topics you'd like to talk about. Let us know what you think about this episode. Whether you like what we've done with the mice, as Matt mentioned, we can do it with keyboards and we can do it with a whole range of other accessories. Might take us a bit of time to research them and buy them, but hopefully between us we'll have a lot of those. So Matt, any final thoughts on mice or our 10th episode today?
Oh gosh, JD, I think like you said, there's more detail that we could go through for each of the variants of mice. So I hope we might get to do that one day down the track, because the small detail there I think is really interesting stuff. But thank you everyone. Yeah, as JD said, that's been following us along to this 10th milestone episode, which has been great. And JD, thanks for continuing to have me back as the co-host, which has been very enjoyable. I'm getting a good kick out of this. It's a lot of fun, and look forward to being back for number 11 next week.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Matt. As I said at the beginning, you agreed, or in fact, we workshopped the ideas early on, and you've agreed to be part of the show from the very beginning, and I really appreciate it, and the insights you bring are just fantastic. And of course, the resources of the Mac Museum are always welcome on the show here as well. So thanks everyone for joining us today. As Matt said, we'll be back for episode 11 next week. Not quite sure what the topic will be, but once we've got past this one, things will flow, I'm sure. Thanks again, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out next week. Take care.
See you, everyone.
Thank you for joining the Macdownunder Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.